Go with the wind. Trust me.
Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger. My friends, yes, you saw the video correctly. Yasuo is coming to Project L, the League of Legends fighting game. If you know all about Yasuo, then hey, I don't gotta tell you. But for our FGC friends out there who are maybe not as inclined to know about League of Legends, let me just tell you that Yasuo is kind of a big deal. But don't worry, I'll explain it to you why he's a big deal in fighting game terms. Let me sell you on the character right now. Hey, wait a second, I know this game. That's the guy. That's the guy from Marvel. And he does the thing and all that. Okay, I remember this. Wait, are you telling me he has moves from Virgil? That Virgil? The guy who kind of ran Marvel Virgil? Well, okay, I guess. As long as it's just that, because that's a lot already, right? At least say we're not in like full-on silly territory, and they would give him moves from zero as well. That would just be too much. Wait, you're telling me this guy has lightning loop combos as well? Well, actually, yeah, and you can get very creative with it as well. He's got quite a few options to work with. Not the least of which, also the gimmicks and the cross-ups, let alone what you can do in combos. So now, don't get me wrong, Yasuo is not like a carbon clone copy of Virgil and Zero from Marvel or anything like that, right? But let's say he certainly has some inspirations going into his moveset. And for a lot of y'all, I think that sold you right out of the gate. If you never watched the original Project L breakdown video, which I highly suggest you should, it'll be linked at the end of this video, I mentioned how of the three characters shown at the time, Ahri is kind of like the most stock versus fighter, the most Marvel style character of the three shown. Well, let me tell you that Yasuo also has a lot of Marvel, a lot of versus in his DNA. But that's some small segments of the character. Yasuo is being revealed today. You might have learned about him from this very video. If I did my job right anyways. So let me tell you all about Yasuo in this game and what he can do and what he is capable of. So Yasuo, very much like the samurai archetype, which is, well, not a shocker, I guess, right? Has very big, very generous normals. Not as big overall as Darius, but still much more than some of the other characters. And for his biggest moves, he can actually meet and exceed Darius's range. Now, another very interesting thing about Yasuo is his walk speed. It may be the slowest walk I've ever seen in any fighting game in history. And I'm talking even like Makoto in Street Fighter. She's positively the roadrunner while she's walking compared to Yasuo's walk. Now, he can dash, he can wave dash, he can run, so he has the more advanced mobility options, but his basic walk is glacial to the point where it's just straight comedy. You might as well pretend it doesn't exist. Now, another thing about Yasuo is he is indeed a stance character, and he has quite a few options out of his stances. In fact, right here, after the hit, you can see him go into a stance, and he has this absolutely devastating long-range upward strike that always wall bounces the enemy in the middle of a combo. And while in the Aijutsu stance, he has all sorts of moves like that. Basically big, gigantic swings, much bigger than his regular normals, so he can threaten a lot of the screen, and also fun things like his light attack while in stance is a stomp, which I do believe is an OTG off the ground attack as well. So we got big normals, we got big samurai style moves out of a stance, which is a very samurai style stance. So he's got the cool stuff already, but there's a lot more yet. So Yasuo is indeed a master of the wind, and one of the things he can do is create a wind wall. And this is also one of his assists, by the way. So on a space level, while that wind wall is up, it destroys all projectiles. No projectiles at all can go past it. So it lets you own a pretty big part of the screen, and that's great in and of itself. And if that's all it did, well, that would still be really good, but it does a lot more. In fact, what it does in addition to destroying projectiles is any special move that Yasuo does through the wind wall will supercharge that special move. It will actually grant it all new properties, so let me show you some examples. So while the wind wall is up, if you do say his projectile, if the projectile clashes with the wind wall, instead of the base Virgil style projectile, if you will, it'll actually turn it into a full-on twister. And then it'll have a much larger hitbox, dominate a bigger portion of the screen, and just be, well, better all in all. Yasuo's neutral special 1 is an exceptionally long poke. And if you say put that exceptionally long poke through the wind wall, well, that becomes like a full screen poke, like literally corner to corner. So to say that the wind wall gives him presence and screen control is an understatement, because he can create giant projectiles, he can create full screen sword stabs, and he can also stop the influx of projectiles coming his way. So screen control is very much a Yasuo thing. Nobody's gonna accuse the boy of being the fastest character on the roster, because he certainly isn't. But between the big normals, the big specials, and just the big everything, he'll be getting his hits in, don't worry. Not the least of which, he's the only character I can think of off the top of my head that can go from a level 1 to a level 2 super by himself. So his level 1, one of his level 1s, is a Twister super, which OTGs, and it juggles you long enough to combo directly into his level 2, which is a sight to see, because not only is he slashing you, he cuts the moon itself in half to get at you. So suffice it to say, the flash that you would want in a samurai style character is definitely there for Yasuo. Also, speaking of samurai style characters, one of the things I did notice, maybe I'm crazy, but when I was looking at it, I noticed a few of his normals bared some resemblance to another samurai of fighting game fame. Specifically, his stand heavy looks suspiciously like Haomaru's stand heavy slash, which is the very infamous button. But I guess for Yasuo, this isn't his first samurai showdown, if you will. But yeah, the one big thing, man, Yasuo is just dripping with style. You can see some of these combos that are being performed by these developers in these matches. And between lightning loops, all stance cancels and the combos and using stances for wall bounces and all that kind of stuff, he can do some very silly things. Especially with my time with the game, like playing Darius. Darius is a little bit more like ABC style combos. Yasuo is certainly a good deal more involved. So if you're looking for a more technical style character, Yasuo can definitely fit the bill for you. A lot of people who I talked to when we had our playtest with Project L over at the Riot headquarters, Yasuo was like wildly their favorite character, and it's easy to see because if you like that versus game flair, man, that's a versus game style character to say the least. A very strong blend of real match practical stuff that is very strong, and a lot of sassy and cool looking combos. So that said, that's a bit of a sneak peek, if you will, at Yasuo in Project L. So he is now the 4th official character, and yeah, we've seen some other characters before in older builds, but they're not on the website, so technically I guess they're not announced yet, but you know who they are, right? So in the future, we'll see more characters, I'm sure, and I'll do my best to give you a good showcase of what they can do whenever they get announced. Project L is a very, very cool game, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys get your own hands on it at some point. If you're at EVO right now, you can go play it right now, and if not, well, at some point in the future, hopefully. But until then, well, I guess we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some fighting games.